We had a really bang-up week this week with this bunch. It was a really an amazing group. But I think the bishops are making a lot of sense on poverty. I've heard some good things about that. And I think that the worker priests are probably going to start moving back into the scene, too, the way a lot of them are talking. So, of course, they never moved out of the scene. They're still there. But they're not working full-time or anything. Then we had a real bang-up week this week with this bunch. It was really an amazing group. It was lively. I mean, each day, 2 4-hour sessions. you don't fool around with a half-an-hour conference and then go meditate. You really, you work. See, and there were some excellent people. And one of the most excellent people was a very old guy who's been sort of a peace movement type for years and years and years. He's an old Presbyterian minister. He's 80 years old or something like that. And he's a really good man, a really simple, holy man. And he's been through the mill. He's been hit over the head and put in jail and all that stuff. But he's very respected. I mean, people have a very high regard for him. Even those who don't agree with him, he's a very, very well-respected person. And he was along. He had some very good things to say. But, of course, Dan Berrigan was lively, and we had this Dr. Ferry, who was here from California, from the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions, is quite a sharp man, and he was talking. We were talking about this whole business, and the general, so the whole idea of this is that the purpose of this retreat was more or less a kind of an organization, getting the leaders of the peace movement and so forth organized in view of a new phase. They were coming around a corner. What's happened is that with the test ban and so forth, the peace movement sort of fell apart, and everybody said, well, what's there to do? Let's go into the civil rights. See? Now with the Chinese bomb, there's going to be all this ruckus and so forth again, and so they wanted to get some spiritual. Incidentally, Bayard Rustin didn't come. He's going to Stockholm with Martin Luther King, so he couldn't get here. And Martin Luther King is going to preach in St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Maybe today, I don't know. Might be where he was. But the idea was to get down into some spiritual roots. And you could see, there was one fellow, a Mennonite, who's been working down in Mississippi this summer. And a great guy, a really solid man. And you see he's very... And the thing that struck me about him was that we were sort of discussing all kinds of questions and the future of civilization and all this sort of stuff. And he was down to the business of your life has to be centered on one reality only, Christ. See? And, I mean, not a word. This is it. This is the thing. And from this, everything else flows. And we have no hope in there. There is no other hope but Christ. See? And, of course, Dan was talking sort of Teilhard de Chardin sort of ideas. They kind of got pulled apart. I mean, Teilhard doesn't cut enough ice with these people. They're Protestants. Teilhard doesn't cut ice with Protestants. They're too, because all this business of a great, there's going to be a wonderful new civilization, and it's all going to be ducky, and it's going to be the New Jerusalem and that sort of stuff. Protestants don't buy that at all. What they buy is the Lord died on the cross, and we got to hang on to the cross and fight our way through the thing, and the New Jerusalem is in the next life. We know. Whether it's going to be in this life, we're not too sure. And I think it's a somewhat more realistic view of things. Yeah?
Typically Lutheran.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what they discovered. See, because the Protestants are very suspicious of this. I mean, all this business about we're really going to build a brave new world on this earth. They don't like that too much. They say, who you're trying to kid and that sort of thing. And it's but anyway, it's interesting to see the way they react and the way they function and so forth. But basically, what the whole thing added up to was that, boy, if you're going to have hope, it's got to be theological hope. And it's got to be centered on Christ and not on this or that eventuality or a policy or a program or something. And these guys left without programs, with hope in Christ and not hope in programs. And that's the only way. Because, I mean, it's not it isn't within the hands of men. So it was very well worth doing, very great. On the other hand, some of the liturgical innovations that took place within these holy walls just as well you guys were around. But we did some fine things, I must say. We got way ahead of any, this wasn't me, this is Dan Berrigan. He's got permission to do this, and so he does it. But we were far ahead of the next Vatican Council. Communion in two kinds and all that sort of thing. And oh, yes. And a very nice Mass. A very nice idea, again, this diptych sort of thing, standing around the altar. And when he gets to the commemoration of the living, he stops, and he mentions a few that he remembers, and then everybody starts mentioning people that they want included, which is nice. This is a nice way to do it, going around. And Jim Forrest mentioned the monks of Gethsemane. They got in there, the diptychs at one point. But this is a nice way to do that part, but some of the other things I'm a little doubtful about myself. But so some of them quite doubtful about. Let's go on to, let's get back to the 6th century. We're on dangerous ground. Of course, it was all in English. Canon in English, everything in English, naturally. Well, Del Augusta down in Georgia ought to see this, so this is what they're all longing for down there. Well, why long for it? We got it. Yeah.
That's what Dan did. You wrote that. You told us about on the tape.
Yeah, the same sort of thing, only better. A little more so. It's developed a little bit since last summer. So, anyway. But he's going around saying Mass in people's houses now. You just get together in the evening around the table, and he says Mass. Nice. Of course, I don't know how long it's going to go on. He's liable to, if Dan Berrigan suddenly disappears in the castle of San Angelo. Let's see. There was an interesting point that was brought up today in the refectory by Cardinal Suenens, this question of maturity. And of course, this is batted around all over the place. And one hears a great deal about it. And so, let's consider this a little bit. I got the wrong. You'll be thinking a little bit, what is meant by this question of maturity? When Cardinal Suenens says that